welcome to the Unqualified Podcast with Leon Wilson. That's me. Today we went over Mark 8 and the conversation in my mind, how the chapter kind of plays out, and I'll just kind of run over it real quick and so you can see what I'm talking about. But it brought up a lot of real vivid questions and problems that we face today, and that I feel like is important to address. And obviously, I was inspired to address it, behind the pulpit. But the Lord just kind of, sometimes I feel like the Lord He kind of whips you, and gives you and sometimes He gives you the switch to whoop someone else. And as a preacher, it's your position, honestly, to try to steer people in the right direction using love, first of all, and the other one is a righteous correction, to really not demonize anybody or make them seem like they're less than human or anything. And we all are human, and we definitely all sin, and we definitely all have problems and issues that we need to address in our own lives and everything. And I'm not saying we don't, but I think it's the position of the pastor that's huge and important to run that play, if you will, and get someone's mind on to where they should be. And what I mean by that is, like today, this scripture, and I'll read it real quick and then we'll go from there. But this is Mark 8. In those days, the multitude being very great, and having nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples unto him, and saith unto them, I have compassion on the multitude, because they have now been with me 3 days, and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away fasting to their own houses, they will faint by the way, for diverse of them came from far. And his disciples answered him, From whence can a man satisfy these men with bread here in the wilderness? And he asked them, How many loaves have ye? And they said, 7. And he commanded the people to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves and gave thanks and brake, and gave his disciples to set before them, and they did set them before the people. And they had a few small fishes, and he blessed and commanded to set them also before them. So they did eat and were filled, and they took up the broken meat, or he took up of the broken meat that was left 7 baskets. And they that had eaten were about 4,000, and he sent them away. I look at this and see this pattern of us, essentially having problems in our life and leaning on Christ, and we do the same thing as the disciples, and we say, Lord, how are you going to do this? How are we supposed to do this? How am I supposed to feed 4,000 people with 7 loaves of bread and a few fishes? And it would, I think what it does is it brings contrast, that our faith is so wishy-washy. And you can see that because, sorry, I'm sitting on a wallet. You can see that because Jesus just fed the 5,000. And these disciples were there, the same one, who saw how he fed these 5,000. And all the other things that he's done. It should have been evident by this time that they're not just hanging out with just some normal guy, that they're hanging out with the master. And we do the same thing. Like, we can stare down our noses at these people, and we can say, man, how could they do that? How is it that they weren't, they didn't have more faith and all this. And I dare say, look at what the Lord has done in our lives. And we too ask him so many times, how, Lord, how are you going to make this work for me? how, Lord? How are you going to touch my finances? How are you going to touch my marriage? How are you going to touch my health? How are you going to touch my mental health? How are you going to help me out of this depression or anxiety or something like that? How are you going to help me out of these whatever? How are you going to help me out of this trouble I'm in? How are you going to help me out of this hole? And we do the exact same thing that the disciples do, but we'll ask ourselves, how can they do that? How did they not know how precious Jesus is? And he was standing in front of their face. But we do the same thing every day. And then, I want to draw special attention to the compassion that Jesus showed. Because when he got the disciples, he called them to him. And he said, I have compassion on the multitude because they've been with me for 3 days and haven't eaten. And I send them home. They're going to faint along the way. And, it just kept resonating in my mind, in my heart. Jesus doesn't want you faint. He wants you fed. Jesus wants you fed. He doesn't want you faint. And we fight him tooth and nail on it. I mean, you think about it. His way's always going to be better for our lives. Always. And we fight him tooth and nail because we want what we want in this moment. However, life stimulates us. And we expect him to cater to the way that we see things when it's always going to be a better idea to just trust him because his perspective is the overhead view of our life. And how do we not? Like, what makes us think for 1 second that our way is going to be way more better than his? More better. It reminds me of dealing with children. And it's kind of like, you have something incredibly spicy that you're snacking on or whatever. And this child walks up and all they know is that whatever you have must be good and that they want it. Now, your plans are to eat this right here, and then here in a little bit, you're going to go get ice cream, let's just say. But this child is so adamant that they want whatever you're snacking on. And you're like, dude, this is, we'll just say like a Tijuana Mama or something. You want them hot sausages at the gas station. You do not want this, Junior. And Junior's like, oh, I want it. I want what you have. I want what you have. I want it so bad. And you're like, no, dude, you're not going to want this. Yeah, I want it so bad. I want it. I want it. Give it to me. And so you say, okay. And you take off a small bite of it and you give it to them. And then next thing you know, and you see the regret build up in their eyes, and you can tell, yeah, that ruined your day. And this child is on fire, and crying and snotting and everything else. Eyes are, and you know how it does. And you were hoping that they'd say, oh, okay, Dad, okay, Mom, I don't want that because you said it ain't, I don't want it. No, they always think that you don't understand how much they want it and that they can handle it. The same thing between us and God. He knows what we can handle. We're over here saying, oh, I want it, Lord, give it to me. I want that, whatever, and I want this guy, or I want this gal, or I want this job, or I want this car, or I want this house, or whatever it is. I'm just saying. And God's over here saying, that ain't going to take you anywhere. It's not going to be what you want. Here in 6 months, you'll see. Don't do it. Don't do it. Everything but stop, dummy. I know what's better than, for you than you. And we, as just ignorant, no different than these children this child we're talking about, we're so ignorant to the situation that we still think, Lord, you must not love me if you're not giving me my way. When the ultimate amount of love is being shown for him guarding us from the situation we're trying to talk ourselves into. And that's God. And that's us. And my prayer is that, Lord, I don't see what I want. Like, I cannot make that I absolutely just have no longing for anything in this world, that I only have a longing for that which is going to propel me in the direction I'm supposed to go. And that's a tough prayer. And honestly, it requires a lot of discipline to pray something like that. But Jesus prayed it for us. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Lord, you could let this cup pass from me, and I'll be okay with that. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. That's a tough prayer. And we should pray it. We should. We spend awful lot of time spinning our wheels trying to push into a direction that we have no business going in. But he knows better. And the amount of compassion it takes to look at us and see us not for the hard-headed, crazy people that we are, instead seeing us as just someone he loves, and for him to say, I'm not going to let you leave hungry. I know I see your need, and I want to help you with your need, and I'm not going to let you leave hungry. That's my God. That's who I serve. So anyways, he multiplies the bread, multiplies the fish, gets these people fed. But I couldn't help but think, what about people who might have left? And what about those people who really didn't understand the profoundness of the situation they were in? And so they just left or didn't eat. I don't know. It could have been 3 different camps of people who just didn't. I don't eat bread. I don't eat bread. I'm allergic to gluten or whatever. I don't eat bread. I don't know where that bread came from. I'm not going to eat it. Or I don't eat fish. That's too fishy. Is that perch? I don't want a perch. I only eat white meat. I only eat chicken, something like that. There's always those people who they're not going to eat it. And so they turn down an opportunity to eat food from the master's hand, from the creator of the universe. Not good enough for them. And then, the people that left, they might have ate something on their way home or something like that, stopped by the Arby's or the Bojangles and ate before they went home, 2,000 years ago. Or, they fainted along the way, like Jesus said. He said it for a reason. But here's the biggest kicker to that. These are people who never got a chance to see that miracle happen. And then the other thing is, in the future, the next day and on, for the rest of these other people's lives, they get to be the ones to say, man, I was there the day he did that, and I ate the bread. I ate the fish. And the other people, the people who didn't go or the people who didn't stay, they can't say that. I mean, there's gravity in that. There's if you think about it, it's wild to think that somebody would walk away from an opportunity to sit and behold miracles. One day, we're gonna get to eat with the Master, and it'd be cool to have somebody say, "Man, the last time I ate with Jesus, He sat us down in this field. He had fed the 5,000, but we didn't know we were going to get fed too. But man, he taught us. He touched me. He healed this or that or whatever. And then he multiplied the bread and he multiplied the fish. I was there. And man, that food was good. Well, today, if you didn't go to church or like you're one of them people that refuse to go to church, you're doing the same thing. You're refusing the bread from the master's hand. You're refusing the fish from the master's hand. And you get an opportunity like that. It makes you see some things. Today, service was great, man. It was crazy. It was incredible. It was crazy. It was just wild good. And here soon we'll get the website and everything else where we can live stream YouTube and everything else, and then y'all can join us over there and watch it directly at mercychurch.life. We'll have all that stuff up here soon. But being there and feeling the presence of the Lord on me and being able to preach under his inspiration and say things I never would have thought on my own. Couldn't have. And see folks leave full. That's a feeling. That's a feeling I want for the rest of my life. And if you're not getting that, you've got to find a church that you can get fed. We all need it. We all need to sit under the gospel and have our toes stepped on, be challenged and grow. Because if we're not, then we're really acting outside of what we're supposed to be doing in our lives. I mean, you need to grow. I mean, don't think you don't, because that's a very dangerous place to be. But I think today in America, there's a revival going on. It's not being publicized, but it is being shown some places. But, the catalyst was was the murder of Charlie Kirk. And then, now so many people are coming to church or coming back to church. And then, that's an important thing to talk about. And it's important to recognize that. But it's also important to understand that this is an individual basis that we have to make the conscious effort to say, I need Jesus. Where can I get Jesus? Where can I get Bible? Where can I learn? Where can I grow? Where can I pour back into so that I can help someone else grow? Which is effectively the circle of life in the church. And if you're not getting fed, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if you like the church, it's a family church you grew up in, whatever. If you're not getting fed there, then you need to go where the bread and the fish are. You need to go where Jesus is. Because if Jesus isn't handing out the bread and the fish, then you got a problem. If you look at the way the Bible said it, he sat the people down, he had the disciples come get what he had blessed, hand it out. And then as they handed it out, who delivered it? The disciples delivered it. The preachers effectively delivered it. The early church delivered it. So they were accustomed to getting the blessing of the Lord and giving it to other people. And effectively, as a preacher, as a pastor, that's what I'm doing, is trying to give what Jesus gave to me and give it away to somebody else to help somebody. Today, I'm hoping that's you. Today, I would really, really appreciate to help you. So if you would open your heart right now and you would allow Jesus to change your life, that'd be amazing for both of us. Because it's just as much of a blessing to be a blessing as it is to receive a blessing. But It's way more fulfilling to be the blessing. So the church we started, it's called Mercy Church. You can find the website at mercychurch.life. We'll be creating the YouTube channel here soon and live streaming. We're trying to build up the money and everything to get a good audio visual system, and we've already got that picked out. It's going to be about $3,000, and so we're collecting the money and trying to build up to start putting the pieces together and getting this stuff so that we can live stream properly and that we can run this church properly and have a good future-proof system, at least for the next 10, 15 years. The church is just growing. It's amazing. I'm just overwhelmed. It's like a whirlwind. And I get to watch it, get to be a part of it, and that's amazing to me. But tune in if you can and support us if you can, and share this, please. Share the clips and everything else, because growing this YouTube channel, the Unqualified Podcast with Leon Wilson, growing this YouTube channel is going significant. I've been, shadow tagged or whatever it's called, and so we're being suppressed, and all the help you can get would be awesome for us. But anyways, I love you. God loves you. This has been the Unqualified Podcast with Leon Wilson.